someone is singing or if they're soloing, I'm trying to help them tell their story. And if I'm the soloist, then they're helping me, and no one is trying to show off or, look at me. And the fun of it is we don't know at the start of the story just what it's going to be, because it's sort of, you're out there on a tightrope a little bit, but it's what makes it fun. I think anyone that sees this room will understand why an organ player would want to live in this house. Let's see, we got some cool posters created by a Nike designer named David Gill. There's me as Chuck Norris. Renato, our saxophonist, is Bruce Lee. Sweet Baby James with an afro. This was the great drummer Bernard Purdy was out here playing with us. Some of the Bay Area giants of jazz, a few of which I knew back in the day. The black gospel churches were using it as a rhythmic instrument and completely different from its intended use. So rock bands, rock music comes out of gospel and blues and jazz, and they just use the instrument kind of the same way.
Do you hum when you play? Is there like an internal hum to you when you're playing?
I'm not aware of it while I'm playing, but yeah, mics are probably picking it up. Organ players do this. It's 1934 was when it was invented, and it still turns on the same way. Turn on the start switch, hold it until it's reached maximum speed, add the run switch, and then release, and then there's nothing for about 30 seconds. Ever since Jimmy Smith came along in the late 50s, most pop, jazz, rock, gospel, blues organists have approached it kind of the same way, which is what Jimmy came up with. Jimmy was somebody who'd studied bass as well as had played professionally as a pianist, so he managed to come up with a way of combining the two in a modern sound. If you just play the bass pedals like the instrument was designed to be played, it's kind of a plodding tuba kind of the way, just the sound of it. And Jimmy combined the left hand bass and just using the pedals to bring out the attack of the note like a plucking sound. So the two combined, you get this. Dum, dum, dum. Much more swinging. So here's the guts of a B3. You take off the back, this is what you see. And I'm not a technician, so I can't tell you too much about what's going on back here. This is the preamplifier, and behind the preamplifier are the tone generators, and that motor that you start when you turn the organ on. It starts a motor, and it's kind of like a drive shaft, runs the whole length of this thing, and there's, as I understand it, there's spinning metal tone wheels that pass through magnetic fields. And according to legend, it was really an accident in the factory. Hammond was a clock company. They had an electronic clock, and somehow a tone was generated, and Mr. Hammond heard it and said, "What was that?" And the technician said, "Oh, I don't know, it just made a sound." And said, he asked, could you make an organ with that? And that started the process. The organ itself makes no sound. It only has a preamp. And this is the actual amplifier back here and speaker. And it's called a Leslie speaker. It was designed by a disgruntled Hammond organ buyer named Don Leslie. If you look to buy a Hammond organ, like a used Hammond organ now, chances are about 50-50 that it'll have a Leslie with it. So that, if you see my hand going down here, that's what I'm doing. I'm turning on the the Leslie speed change.
How do you describe that sound?
I don't know how to answer that. To me, it's just a dramatic, really dramatic thing. I mean, there's nothing like it. Obviously, another great invention that failed at its intended purpose. It doesn't sound like reverberation, you know. It's just, they call it the pipe voice of the electric organ. That's what the advertisement called it. It doesn't sound anything like a pipe. The bottom line of what I'm trying to do, and what the musicians that I admire are trying to do, is to tell a story with music.